South Florida woman killed inside an Uber during a night out in downtown Miami. The question now, what happened in that ride?
Picture this. You're holding purple balloons on a Miami street corner, tears streaming down your face, your daughter's favorite color. She'll never see purple again because of a split-second decision in the back of an Uber. This is Gladys Yvette Borcella's mother speaking. Listen carefully because her voice cuts through all the legal noise, all the media circus, straight to the heart of what really happened on July 23rd, 2022. She was loved, she tells the cameras, standing exactly where emergency responders found her daughter dying.
She was loved. As many people here showing it right here in this spot right now. Her kids do miss her. This is what hurts me the most too.
3 children. That's what Gladys left behind. 3 little ones who will grow up asking questions their grandmother struggles to answer. How do you explain that mommy went out with someone she trusted? How do you tell them that friendship can turn deadly in seconds? The mother's pain transforms into something sharper when she learns about the legal strategy. While she's planning a funeral, the shooter's lawyers are arguing that an unborn baby deserves freedom.
We've asked for release, and we're looking for the opportunity of the unborn child to be developed and born ultimately in a safe environment, not in the environment that it's in right now, which is dangerous pods within TGK.
The irony burns. Her daughter's children are now motherless, but somehow the killer's unborn child has rights.
I do want justice. She took my daughter. She left 3 small babies behind. She needs to serve some time. She needs to do life.
These aren't just words of grief. They're a battle cry for justice. But what does justice look like when jealousy explodes into murder? When a night out becomes a family's worst nightmare? The mother watches news crews dissect her daughter's final moments. She sees surveillance footage played on repeat. Each viewing is another wound, but she endures it because Gladys deserves to have her story told completely. Here's what strikes you about this mother's perspective. She doesn't seek revenge. She seeks accountability. She doesn't want blood. She wants the truth acknowledged. Gladys did OnlyFans content to support her family, not glamorous, but real hustle for real bills. I do want justice, she says simply. But justice feels complicated when you're facing unprecedented legal arguments about fetal rights and self-defense claims. What would you do if you were in her position? How do you fight for your daughter when the killer's pregnancy becomes headline news? How do you ensure your child's death matters when lawyers are making constitutional arguments about unborn rights? The mother's voice reminds us why this case matters beyond legal precedent. Behind every true crime story, someone is grieving. Someone is demanding answers. Someone is holding purple balloons and refusing to let their loved one become just another statistic. But voices have different truths. Next, we hear from someone who saw everything unfold. You're crammed in the 3rd row of a Cadillac Escalade at 2:15 a.m. and the tension is suffocating. 2 women who were laughing hours ago are now locked in verbal combat. You sense something's about to snap, but you never imagine it'll be deadly. This is what witnesses experienced inside that Uber, a front row seat to murder. The evening started innocently at the Clevelander on South Beach. Typical Saturday night energy, music, drinks, strangers becoming temporary friends. A group of men approached the women's table with a proposition, let's extend this party, bring more friends. That's when Natalia Harold, 6 weeks pregnant, made the fateful call to Gladys. Social media photos were shared. Plans were made. The urban nightclub downtown became their next destination, but witnesses noticed the shift immediately. Gladys commanded attention effortlessly, her infectious smile, her dancing, her pure joy in the moment. Men gravitated toward her naturally, and Natalia. Witnesses saw her mood darken progressively. The text message tells everything. Get your girl under control. Think about that phrase, not, she's having too much fun, or tone it down. Control. Like Gladys was somehow Natalia's possession, stepping out of line by simply being herself. When the Urban closed, 7 people piled into that Uber. The seating arrangement would prove crucial. Gladys and Natalia together in the back, forced proximity when emotions were already combustible. Witnesses described the argument escalating rapidly, name-calling, raised voices, the driver's growing alarm as his passengers' confrontation intensified. Then came the threat that should have been a warning to everyone. You don't want this. You don't want me to go in my purse. Here's what witnesses saw next. Natalia reaching calmly into her bag. No panic, no desperation, methodical movement. She knew exactly what she was reaching for. The gunshot shattered everything. Chaos erupted instantly, screaming, scrambling, the driver pulling over in shock. But witnesses noticed something chilling about Natalia's demeanor afterward, complete composure. While others panicked, she collected her belongings deliberately. While others fled in terror, she walked away calmly. No checking on Gladys, no calling for help, no apparent remorse. 6 people ran from that Uber, leaving Gladys bleeding and dying alone. Think about that moral moment, when survival instinct overrides human decency. But it also created 6 potential witnesses to testify about what really happened. Their accounts would later contradict Natalia's self-defense claims. They saw aggression, but not the kind her lawyers would argue. They saw calculated action, not fearful reaction. The surveillance footage corroborated their testimonies. Natalia facing forward, warning about her purse, reaching inside, firing once, then calmly exiting while Gladys lay wounded. But witnesses also revealed the deeper story, how jealousy had been building all night, how Natalia's pregnancy didn't prevent her from going out, drinking, staying up until 2:30 a.m., how her claims of fear seemed inconsistent with her behavior before the shooting.
She was pregnant. She knew she was pregnant. She was fearful that this woman was going to do something to her. She launched herself towards my client, and my client reacted.
Defense attorneys would argue these same witnesses were unreliable, traumatized, possibly intoxicated themselves. Whose version of truth do you believe? Imagine you're a defense attorney facing an impossible case, surveillance footage, multiple witnesses and a dead victim. How do you argue self-defense when your client was the only one armed? How do you claim fear while she's sitting calmly in security footage? This is where Natalia Harold's defense team got creative and controversial. Attorney Andre Ruhr painted a picture of a pregnant woman in mortal fear. His narrative, Gladys launched herself toward Natalia during their argument. A 6-week pregnant woman, outnumbered in a confined space, genuinely believed her life and her baby's life were threatened. She was fearful that this woman was going to do something to her. She launched herself towards my client and my client reacted, Ruhr argued. But here's where the defense strategy became unprecedented. They brought in attorney William Norris to represent the unborn child separately. Think about the legal implications. If the fetus is a person with constitutional rights, then it's being unlawfully detained for crimes it didn't commit. An unborn child is a person. The person has constitutional rights, and one of them is the right not to be deprived of liberty without due process of law, Norris declared. This wasn't just about getting Natalia out of jail, it was about redefining how the justice system handles pregnant defendants. The petition claimed inadequate prenatal care, demanded immediate release, and argued the fetus deserved freedom regardless of its mother's alleged crimes. Brilliant legal strategy or desperate manipulation? The defense was essentially arguing that pregnancy creates a special category of defendant, one whose detention violates another person's rights. Consider the precedent this could set. Would every pregnant woman charged with crimes have grounds for release? Would fetal rights supersede public safety concerns? Could pregnancy become a get-out-of-jail-free card for serious felonies? The medical care argument added another layer. Norris claimed Natalia hadn't seen an OBGYN since October, painting Miami-Dade jail as unsuitable for pregnant inmates. But corrections officials fired back, detailing their partnership with Jackson Health System and comprehensive prenatal care programs. Meanwhile, the self-defense claim required careful choreography. Defense attorneys had to explain why their client, carried a gun to nightclubs, made verbal threats about her purse, showed no immediate fear before the shooting, demonstrated remarkable calm afterward, fled without rendering aid or calling for help. Their answer? Split-second decision-making under extreme stress, pregnancy hormones affecting judgment, maternal instinct overriding rational thought. But prosecutors saw calculation, not desperation. They highlighted how Natalia retrieved her belongings after shooting Gladys, how she walked away purposefully while others panicked, how her fear seemed selective, afraid enough to kill, composed enough to flee strategically. The defense also had to address the jealousy motive. Why was Natalia texting, "Get your girl under control," if she wasn't bothered by Gladys's attention-getting behavior? Why continue the night out if she felt threatened? Their response focused on pregnancy vulnerability, hormonal changes, increased anxiety, heightened protective instincts. They argued these factors created genuine fear, even if outsiders couldn't understand it. What's fascinating about this defense strategy is how it weaponized pregnancy itself, not just as a mitigating factor, but as a constitutional argument for special treatment. It transformed Natalia from aggressor to victim, a pregnant woman defending herself and her unborn child against perceived threats. But did this strategy help or hurt her case? By making the pregnancy so central, did they inadvertently highlight how her condition didn't prevent her from going out, staying up late, carrying weapons, or making deadly decisions? The state's response was swift and uncompromising. Dismiss the fetal rights petition and focus on cold, hard evidence. The jury deliberation room becomes the ultimate test of competing narratives. 12 people must decide: calculated murder or desperate self-defense, constitutional rights or legal manipulation, justice for Gladys or mercy for an unborn child. The verdict arrived like a thunderclap: guilty of second-degree murder. The jury saw through the pregnancy defense. They examined the surveillance footage, heard witness testimonies, and concluded that Natalia Harold's actions weren't justified self-defense. They were disproportionate, unlawful responses to a verbal confrontation she helped create. The court's 11-page ruling on the fetal rights petition was equally decisive. The unborn child is not unlawfully detained because it exists inside its mother, who is lawfully detained. But what does this verdict mean beyond this single case? For Gladys's family, it brought partial closure. Her mother's demand for justice was heard, her children's loss was acknowledged. Yet no verdict can restore their mother or heal the trauma of losing her so violently and senselessly. The community reaction was swift and supportive. Vigils continued, fundraisers supported Gladys's children, and social media campaigns kept her memory alive. Purple balloons became symbols of a life cut short and a family's enduring love. Natalia Harold now faces life in prison, serving her sentence while raising her child behind bars. Her baby, the subject of unprecedented legal arguments, will grow up visiting mommy in prison, an innocent victim of choices made before birth. The Uber driver returned to work, forever changed by witnessing murder in his vehicle. The other passengers struggle with survivors' guilt and trauma from fleeing the scene. Everyone touched by this tragedy carries invisible wounds. What strikes you most about this case? The speed with which friendship turned fatal, the legal system's struggle with pregnancy and crime, the way social media and nightlife culture contributed to the tragedy. Perhaps the most haunting aspect is how preventable it all was. If Natalia had left when jealousy struck, if someone had intervened when tensions escalated, if pride hadn't overshadowed basic human decency. Gladys Borcella's story serves as a stark reminder that our choices have consequences extending far beyond ourselves. 3 children lost their mother because someone else couldn't control their jealousy. An unborn child will grow up in prison because their mother chose violence over walking away. The purple balloons released at vigils eventually disappeared into Miami's sky, but the questions raised by this case linger. How do we prevent such tragedies? How do we balance justice with mercy? How do we protect the innocent while holding the guilty accountable?